Hi, my name is Rachel White, and this video is being completed for assignment 10 of North Central University's course Trauma and Resilience in Military and Veteran Couples and Families. So when identifying the instrument that one intends to utilize to assess military families and resilience, evaluating the measure is absolutely essential. And that is one of the benefits of utilizing the toolkit that is being prepared within this course. This is done in order to better understand associations and correlations made throughout the research, as well as to ensure that the data shared following the research is both reliable and valid. By examining the psychometric properties and analyzing the quality of the instruments utilized in the research, we then have the opportunity to explore strengths and challenges that are found within the measures. So doing so then allows researchers and consumers of the research to have a clear picture of the population being assessed and data being measured. The completed toolkit highlights the lack of measures that have been created to specifically assess resilience in military families and the military family population. The measures that do include assessing the military population tend to include assessing the active duty personnel and do not include assessing the resilience of military families or the entire family, including the spouse and children. And this is despite findings that identify the importance of social support in regards to resilience of the active duty military personnel. Seeing this within the toolkit may also inspire continued research to be conducted with the entirety of the military family. To begin, I would like to talk real quick or just identify what measures make up the entire toolkit. And so within the toolkit, the Connor-Davidson Resilience Scale is included, the Deployment Risk and Resilience Inventory, the Brief Resilience Scale, the Resilience Scale 5, the Resilience Scale for Adults, Resilience Attitudes and Skills Profile, and then lastly the Resilience Scale for Adolescents. It's also incredibly important to identify that several of the measures, including the Connor-Davidson Resilience Scale and the Deployment Risk and Resilience Inventory 2, were within several of the research articles. So when identifying and analyzing the quality of measures, there were several findings within these different instruments. So most of the instruments within the toolkit were displayed within the research as having high internal consistency with the alpha coefficient. To begin, the 25-item Connor-Davidson resilience scale has been utilized the most widely and with the greatest amount of populations. It also was utilized with military populations, which is a plus. It has a high test-retest reliability and alpha coefficients and has been displayed throughout multiple studies. Next, the Deployment Risk and Resilience Inventory 2 has 210 items, which may be a deterrent. However, there's also a very high internal consistency with alpha coefficients greater than 0.80. The IRT analysis, however, showed that there is a need for continued revision in order to address the full construct. While the Brief Resilience Scale is only a 6-item measure then, its internal consistency is high with the alpha coefficient ranging from 0.80 to 0.91. It has a high test-retest reliability. However, the sensitivity of the stress scale within the test needs to be further assessed. based on the population that it had been utilized with before, to make sure that it's applicable towards other populations as well. So next, the RSA, or the resilience scale for adults, has a consistent retest reliability and has high sensitivity to clinical change, in addition to having significant exposure to many different cross-cultural environments, which may be a plus regarding working with military populations. The READ, which is the resilience scale for adolescents, was adapted from the RSA, and 2 of the 41 items were actually taken out of the READ on account of them not being applicable to be used with adolescents. And then 2 more of the items were then altered or adapted to fit more of the need for adolescents. But the READ has been identified as being adequate for use with other populations as well. This may potentially even include military families or adolescents within military families within the final cross-validation test. And then the RASP, which is the Resilience, Attitudes, and Skills Profile, had a strong internal consistency, yet the alpha levels for each of the 7 subscales were lower, ranging somewhere between 0.49 and 0.71. So only the Connor-Davidson and the Deployment Risk and Resilience Inventory had been utilized within the United States military population, which is somewhat of a concern, specifically when assessing applicability for all of these tests with the military population. Based on the research that I was able to complete, I was not able to find evidence that the other resilience-focused instruments had been utilized with military personnel or their families specifically. And so appropriateness for some of the measures may be questionable and need further consideration. Also, the DRRI, or the Deployment Risk and Resilience Inventory, was the only instrument that was specifically created for use with military personnel. And so while this doesn't include military families, at least it was specific to the culture of the military and open to identifying those specific needs. In total, the value of having this toolkit and having these findings is to have the opportunity to support continued research and provide guidance regarding what instruments to turn to when assessing resilience with military personnel and or their family members. Based on the information provided within the toolkit or the toolbox so far, the individual is then able to assess which measure meets their needs, as well as to identify future research needs for military families and resilience.